Finally, since 2000, the Bruins get their first win over Fresno State in a final 20-13, and the DeShaun Foster first season ends off with a win.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. We are reacting to the UCLA victory over Fresno State. It'll be their last game of the year here in 2024. And boy, what a roller coaster of emotions it was. From the beginning of the season, that was back and forth, the Bruins having to come from behind to beat Hawaii, and then UCLA having to do a little bit of the same today to beat Fresno State. Finally, the Bruins knock out the Bulldogs. For the first time since DeShaun Foster was a running back for UCLA, having like 159 yards from scrimmage, the Bruins were able to knock off the Bulldogs. So what did UCLA do in this game? They did everything possible to play sloppy, make mistakes, and do something ridiculous. I remember in my preview episode, I said something along the like of, if UCLA comes out and commits 7 penalties, then you should probably watch something else. Well, that was over the game because that would have meant UCLA would have been too sloppy. No, the Bruins legitimately came out and almost committed 7 penalties in probably 8 to 10 plays from scrimmage, right? The first 2 drives of the game, UCLA came out and committed like 6 penalties. And I don't fault you if you turned this game off and said, this is crap. But if you stuck through UCLA finding a way to nearly do something to themselves where they blocked a punt, and then when the loose ball was alive in a scramble for it, they grabbed a face mask, which allowed Fresno State to get a first down and get the only touchdown drive of the day. It was just like, are you serious? Like, are you literally serious? That of all the things, you blocked a punt, the ball's there, you walk away from it. Fresno State picks it up, they grab the face mask, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is the day. This is the day that UCLA was just going to do something stupid and lose for the 5th straight time. No, because at halftime, the Bruins went in and came out a completely better team, at least when it came to penalties. Only 1 to 2 penalties at the end, and in the end, it was one Fresno State penalty that cost them this game, a roughing the passer penalty that kept UCLA's drive alive at midfield. They were up 13-10. You could debate the merits of that penalty. Absolutely. They went to look at targeting. Didn't look like targeting. I hate the call targeting, but it didn't look like targeting. They called it roughing the passer on an incompletion, I believe, on 3rd down. That led UCLA to extend the drive and have a 6 to 7 minute drive at the end of the 4th quarter and score a touchdown. Now, I know all of us as UCLA fans have been through it before. UCLA up with a minute left against Fresno State, and they're going to go down the field against soft coverage defense. They got the field goal. The Bruins survived the onside kick. And in the end, UCLA finished 5-7. 5-7. I think the biggest news we're going to take away from this game is that Carson Schwesinger is an absolute beast. So is Kane Medrano. And the fact that prior to the game, during the senior ceremony, Carson Schwesinger, I believe, he was out there with his family and participated in the senior day activities. It was great to see UCLA win. Great to get the Fresno State little mini losing streak that's now been almost a quarter century old, right? I'd never seen something so ridiculous. UCLA had just blown it every single time. They had taken advantage of first-year coaches by beating the new Heislers, the Chip Kellys, beating Chip Kelly twice, actually. And DeShaun Foster said, no. We're going to look like a lot better of a football team, get 5 yards per play on the average. The protection improved. Everything looked sharper in the second half. Now, they did find ways to blow it. Yeah, certainly UCLA did that in this game, but Maliki Matsuval was too much. Ethan Garber's 289 yards and a touchdown. 65% of his passes were completed. Too much. And who would have thought that Anthony Frias II would have had the most amount of carries in this game and the most amount of rushing yards? I didn't have that on my bingo card. I did not have that on my bingo card. But the Bruins were 50% on 3rd down. The one time they went for it on 4th down, this is my gripe with the 4th down call. I have nothing with the aggression. I have nothing with the play call. My frustration is, how did UCLA dial up a 4th-and-1 call like that and not run that play against USC when the game was on the line? Why couldn't they do a 4th-and-1 play action and hit the fullback who probably would have been open a week ago, as opposed to what they were doing in short yardage situations last week? And the game was on the line against USC, and they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. That's where I was frustrated, that they didn't use that play call last week when it was like 4th and a yard. They were down like 3 to 4 points after USC had taken the lead. That's where I was frustrated. And in this game, they executed that call and they just dropped it. Otherwise, this game probably wouldn't have been a one-score game. It wouldn't have been. UCLA did everything in their power to give Fresno State this game. They did. UCLA went 4 of 5 in the red zone, with the 4th down drop being one of them, which would have been a walk-in touchdown. They gave up the 3 points. They're going for the full 7. They dropped it. That's the only time they didn't score in the red zone. They had the time of possession plus 15 minutes. They didn't turn it over. And lo and behold, I was talking about what UCLA needed to hold Fresno State to. Under 75 yards rushing, forced Mikey Keene to do it all himself. Well, Fresno State had only 62 yards rushing. Donaldson only carried it 6 times. A week after he carried it 12 times for a $140 against Colorado State, it had nothing to do against the UCLA rushing lane. All right, nothing. Even though he averaged 7 yards per carry, Fresno State did not go to him often. They used Mikey Keene's arm, went 30 for 43, only 219. So Mikey Keene, who completed 70% of his passes, the Fresno State quarterback, did not have a lot to show for it. You complete that many passes, you throw it that many times, and you only end up with 219 yards and probably just got past the 200-yard marker on that last drive when UCLA played soft coverage. I mean, Ikaika Malloy deserves every bit of a raise. If UCLA has an internal assistant of the year award, he deserves that, a raise, an extension, because he's got to go and make his money's worth in the recruiting and find players in the portal that are going to equal the pass rush of the previous 2 years, the linebacking core the last couple of years with K. Madrano's emergence last year, pretty much a superstar in Carson Schwesinger becoming a Butkus Award finalist. UCLA is going to miss those guys. And the big thing that he walked on senior day, he still has next year of eligibility. I hope UCLA throws the NIL at him, but there is so much loss from this defense that you might be okay even if he leaves, because it'll be a complete rebuild on defense. Let him turn that into a big pro contract, a good drafting spot, and hopefully a lengthy pro career in the NFL for Schwesinger. But if you feel like this defense is going to be good, rebuild the same principles it's had the last couple of seasons, then absolutely, I think UCLA should go out there and give Schwesinger a fat NIL deal. I'm proud Ethan Garber's ended his career on a win. He came in, got the job done. If it's the end of J. Michael Sturdivant at UCLA, he still's got another year. He made a great touchdown catch that sealed the deal for UCLA with just under 2 minutes left on a 3rd and goal. Garber's just kind of making something out of nothing, throws it out, and J. Michael Sturdivant just whips his hands in and just pulls it down in the middle of 3 Bulldog defenders. Fantastic. Fan-flippin-tastic. I know basing on the over-under win total for UCLA, 4.5 to 5.5. UCLA, I think that 5.5 win total, if you want the upper end for this UCLA season, that means you were expecting the Indiana game to be a guaranteed win. Like I think almost every UCLA fan was thinking, hey, we're going to start 2-0. We're going to be battling hopefully 3-3 by the Minnesota game. That was the thought coming into the season. And then Indiana turns into, with all the craziness in college football, just sitting there, as long as they destroy Purdue, they're going to be in the CFP. And they were really, really good and dominated their schedule much better than anybody could have expected in their first year of Curt Cignetti. So if we realized how good that Indiana team was, I'm thinking that over-under win total would have been 4.5. So if you got a lower end, UCLA exceeded expectations. Cleveland.com put out an unofficial, mostly official Big Ten preseason poll. UCLA came into the season looking like a 15th place team to most eyes. I was hoping they'd get to 5 to 7 wins. They got to the lower echelon of that, and a lot of that came in close games against teams that were on par with UCLA, and the Bruins just faltered in those games. But they went to Nebraska and won. They went to Rutgers and won. All right, they got the big win at home against Iowa, who had 8 wins, came in, 5th place? Half of UCLA's Big Ten losses came against what's going to be the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. Think about that. Half of their losses in the Big Ten, almost half their losses this season, came against 3 teams in the top 10, maybe in the top 8, and they finished 1, 2, and 3 in the Big Ten. Nothing to fault DeShaun Foster for. You can nitpick about how the enemy called some plays in certain situations, but in the end, the adjustments from the first half to the second half, in a week where everything normally goes wrong historically for UCLA after they play USC, in a game that they almost sleep on senior day, a midday game at 12:30 Pacific time kickoff, every reason to be sleepy. The Bruins looked exactly that. But they came out, adjusted, made the plays, had 2 sacks, forced the turnover, blocked the punt even though they did something silly to let Fresno State go out, and found a way to win. That's the resilience and the moxie and the energy and the passion I would like this UCLA program to continue playing, and why I still have some faith in DeShaun Foster. But for DeShaun Foster to earn the respect of all the UCLA fans, because I know out there more than 70%, I believe, are still very skeptical of DeShaun Foster. We love him. We love the passion. We love him being a UCLA true and true, everything, right? What he needs to do, UCLA is losing a lot on defense next year. They are losing a lot. And they got to go to the portal. They've got to find, is Justin Martin the answer? Is it Matt Iamaleava, UCLA's incoming top-rated recruit for the class of 25 who did not play his senior year? Is Eric Bieniemy going to get fired, or is he the right man, just needs better offensive linemen and another year under his system? This in-between, this first true offseason under DeShaun Foster will tell us, I think, all we need to know for the rest of his tenure. That's a short window, yes, but this offseason to the development to next season will tell us so much about how UCLA is going to perform under DeShaun Foster, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 6 years, whether it's 10 years, maybe it's 50, something ridiculous. Year 2 will tell us so much more than it will in year 1. We just know that these guys did not give up on their coach when things were going weird offensively. They were struggling. They didn't even have their top running back have too much with TJ Harden, who was under the weather, but he still came in there and rushed for a go-ahead touchdown. And UCLA ended up persevering through the tough 5-game losing streak, where everything they played against seemed like an absolute murderer's row in their way. And the one time they played close, they blew it. And then they came on strong wins on the road, beat a smack-talking Iowa team, and then finished off with a good win against Fresno State. Now, it's not going to blow anybody away. There's still going to be laughs in the Big Ten. There's, But all I know is that, hey, who's on top of the Big Ten? A West Coast team. What about all those Midwest teams that thought they could push around UCLA? They didn't get pushed around. They handled their own. The only team that pushed around UCLA truly this season was Indiana in terms of the new Big Ten teams. The only teams that UCLA faced in terms of a new Big Ten team that pushed them around was Indiana. We know the struggles on the O-line and the D-line for the most parts, but the Bruins made adjustments. I like that, and I'm excited for 2025. We're going to talk all offseason about transfer portal, everything else, recruiting, and how the team is going to move on to the future, losing probably a couple of receivers, a top-tier quarterback, having to rebuild the O-line, even though I think there are some pieces that shall be good for next season, and completely reload and rebuild the defense. That will be empty with veteran talent come next year. Absolutely gone. That tank is empty. And probably even more so, considering it looks like Carson Schwesinger is gone. But I'm proud of this team. It wasn't always the most exciting. It wasn't always the most glamorous. It wasn't even the most disciplined football team. But they came out in a year with how it was set up with Chip Kelly leaving. They were never destined to have a truly successful year. And I still think they did better than the eyes of what people thought they were, especially after the 1-5 start, where they were just bottom of the barrel. I'm just like, are you serious with this team? And they came out and did what they needed to do. Get some wins, change the narrative, and showcase that they're just not quitting on their coach in this situation where things could have gone completely awry. Now the exciting thing is the build up to next season. The Bruins do end up 5-7, just short of that bowl eligibility, the bowl berth that would have truly shocked many. But for now, you rebuild, you make some calls. The Bruins already have a commit in the portal. They already are building for next season. They got a top-rated recruit coming in at quarterback unless he switches at the last minute, which could happen considering the NIL money and all the quarterback switches happening. And the question in the offseason, how much can they extend to Kaika Malloy, and will they keep Eric Bieniemy? My answer for both of those, yes, absolutely on one. My second one on that is they will keep Eric Bieniemy. They're going to keep him through the end of his contract. They're going to spend all their money on getting players. I hope they do. For now, UCLA wins this 20-13. So let's talk about what that meant if you went to FanDuel. Well, if you're a new customer and you went to FanDuel, you could have made $150 in bonus bets. How? If you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel, go check it out with FanDuel.com as a new customer. If you place your first $5 bet and win, you hit $150 in bonus bets. I said, even though UCLA is favored in this game to win by 8.5 points, take Fresno State to cover because UCLA was only a favorite once this year, also against a Mountain West team, and they did not cover. It could have been a backdoor cover, which it was with Fresno State kicking the field goal. And if you got the 8.5 point spread like it was the day before the game on FanDuel, you'd have gotten $150 in bonus bets. Hey, maybe we're right sometimes. But also check out FanDuel.com to get started. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. In the meantime, UCLA fans, for the final time in 2024, at least on the gridiron, UCLA is victorious beginning and ending the season with a sandwich full of emotions and layers that we are going to peel more and more going into the offseason. But stick with Locked On UCLA. Like, comment, subscribe, download, comment your thoughts of the game. It was ugly. It wasn't a pretty game to watch. Maybe it was a day to go eat some leftovers still if you have some leftover. Or you just are proud of the way that UCLA won and finally took down the Bulldogs. Either way, you got to be proud of the team's effort, the resolve, the moxie, and hopefully this lays the foundation for something to come in the future. Because this year was not going to be a CFP year. It wasn't. It wasn't even going to be a New Year's Six year. But it was something I think we can lay our hats on as a foundational, piece-by-piece layering towards something successful. I hope it is. In the meantime, basketball, the women's team, they're kicking some butt. #1 team in the country. Men's basketball, the tests, the early season cupcakes are over. It's real cooking time for the men's basketball team. So stay tuned. UCLA fans, 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. UCLA wins. Go Bruins.